A total of 170 after deciding to bat first is one of those you can't really put your finger on until the opposition has batted. If the opposition chases it down easily, you'll turn around and say you were well short. If they finish at 150, pat on the back, wonderful score. So we're not judging it at the moment. All we are saying is it's runs on the board in an afternoon game, deciding to bat first, and the big news for Bangalore, the first name on that list, V. Kohli, with a half century. Never mind that it wasn't with the strike rate we're normally used to. He had to get it, and he's finally got it. It's the other guys at the other end who had to make all the running. Maxwell did for a while. Lomror finished it off, and that's where the target now, 171 for Gujarat when they come out to bat. Here on Cricbuzz Live, to assess what's happening, we've got Lisa Sthalekar, Joy Bhattacharjya. Lisa, we were having a little battle of our own. 163 plays 175. That second last ball just sneaked it for me. But apart from our battle, the battle between Faf and Hardik Pandya, who do you think's the happy at the moment?
I think still Hardik Pandya would be happy that they were able to kind of minimise Bangalore, given that, you still, they were 75 for one at the 10 over mark, and you still had Maxwell still to come. So, yeah, it's a total that will challenge Gujarat. I think both captains will be happy, actually. If I'm going to be really honest, I think they'll both be happy with that. And given that Bangalore have struggled of late since that low total, the coaching staff and everyone would be glad that their top order actually put their hand up.
Yeah, double digits, just about into triple digits. And now this, I think if you're talking about a recovery, Joy, this would be a great recovery. You'd have to look at it more from that perspective than just in isolation.
Yeah, and the way you look at it to say that, these weren't easy conditions to bat on. It didn't look as if they were timing the ball at all. They were not getting enough of it. I thought, Sangwan bowled a beautiful spell, just realized this is not the kind of wicket to go all out on. And anyway, he's not the fastest of bowlers, but that's the point, that this is not the prettiest knock that you'll see from Virat Kohli, but the way that he's fashioned it together and got those runs across the board will give him a lot of confidence. I mean, he was going at a strike rate of 100 almost throughout. And if you see that, the strike rate of 126.67, I mean, that is something that tells you how much he struggled. It was less than 100 for quite a while there. And then he's finally sort of made his way up a bit in the middle and then went down again. But that's the point, that Virat is playing himself into form. They got themselves to 170. Again, after 68 and 115, 170 looks really good to them. They'll say, finally, we've given our bowlers something to work with.
I think if in the last month and a half you'd been on Mars or Venus and didn't know what was going on, Lisa, you would have come in there and saying, oh, Bangalore have got some... Virat Kohli, 58 or 53, what's wrong with him? But, I mean, the normal Virat Kohli, that's what you would have said. But knowing his struggles, knowing that they desperately wanted to get him back, I think you'd have to give a lot of credit to him, especially in that heat. He did a lot of running.
Yeah, he was. That's one thing that he has changed in Indian cricket, hasn't it? The fitness level, the willingness to eke out as many runs as you possibly can. I mean, he got a few little gifts from Mohammad Shami right at the top end, but he was running and pushing hard all the way through his innings. And that's a credit to him and the fitness work that he does and what he does to look after his body. So, for those that have been under a rock and have missed everything, this is actually a big occasion for Virat and Bangalore as well. I think we looked at the start about how they kind of fall off the back end of the tournament. They normally have Virat firing in the front end. Well, he hasn't been firing, so maybe the back end he can fire, and this is a good start. Can you hear him, Joy?
I can't hear him, but I was just beginning to say that, what I realized about Gautam this time was that I was just wanting to tell Gautam that if there was a sorting hat, Harry Potter had a sorting hat for which house you go to, then Virat Kohli would certainly go to Hufflepuff. The amount of runs, 2s and 3s that he ran, he would have been in Hufflepuff. I mean, he was just running away. And I think that's where it really shows, top batsmen, when your strokes are not going, then you rely on fitness to make your way through. And I think that's what he did really well, that just allowed his fitness, hot conditions, he ran. And I think he did superbly. What about the bowling? Lisa, what do you think? Where did these guys, I mean, did they do it well? Did they execute well this time, Gujarat, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think if you were to look at what Shami was to do, he bowled well. Apart from a couple of gifts at the start, he still got Kohli in the end, so those numbers will always look good. Rashid Khan again. There were a couple of chances. Kohli gave one to Rashid, who dropped it. I mean, Alzari Joseph still goes for runs, 42 off his 4, but he bowls the tough overs as well, so you have to expect it. And we know that Bradman Stadium, good pitch, predominantly fast outfield, even though it's a bigger ground. Once you get it in the gap, it normally goes.
Now I'm trying to see if I'm back or not. Am I back?
Oh, yeah, you are back. We thought we'd silenced him.
Yeah, I know. I think this was all about me saying Lisa kept it simple. She said, if you've been under a rock, then this is what you've missed. Here I was talking about Mars and Venus and going to another planet. I just popped in there for a moment. I'm back. But the other person who's back, apart from Virat Kohli, which everyone's glad about, is Rajat Patidar. Remember, he was not in the team when the season started, finds his way back into the squad, then into the 11, gets an opportunity at number 3, Joy. And had it not been for, of course, we're talking about Maxwell and Lomrod at the back end, but had it not been for Patidar keeping Kohli company at the other end, I don't think that partnership of 99 would have developed.
No, absolutely. I think he was the guy who actually gave Kohli everything, because what happens is that when you have a situation where one person, look at these numbers. I mean, the number of, he's faced 10 less balls. For that 90-run partnership, he's faced 10 less balls and he scored more runs. I mean, he basically allowed the situation to develop. He basically gave that situation where all Virat had to do is run and somehow focus on staying in the keys. I've talked about this before. Again, I think this is very important for Bangalore, only for that one reason, that sometimes when you're not in form, you need to have an ugly knock and somehow just stay there and tell yourself, I wasn't in half the form I normally am, but I still got a 50. And I think Rajat's innings, because he took the pressure of Virat, allowed Virat to play that way. Because the problem with Virat mostly is he's too much of a team man to be selfish enough to say, you know what, I'll just keep my wicket and I'll just keep plugging away here. It doesn't matter what the team. He'll just go and say, no, the team needs me to score runs, I'm going to try and hit. And I think Rajat just freed him of that pressure.
Yeah, and towards the end, when you probably needed a bit of a relay system, have Maxwell coming in, have Shabazz, Karthik, and all the others coming in. Kohli did go for it, and his nemesis Mohammad Shami accounted for him with a beautiful Yorker. So I think you'd have to call it even Stevens between Shami and Kohli, even though it was dismissal number 5, Lisa, for Shami. I think Kohli had the better of him earlier.
Yeah, he did. And I'm sure if Mohammad Shami, if he was to look at how he bowled even that first over, like I mentioned, he gave him a couple of gifts, didn't he? One on his legs that he clipped away nicely and then was able to punch it through covers as well. So, for Gujarat, they would have been wanting him to have a breakthrough a little bit earlier and maybe take out Kohli like he has done in the past. So, but, I'm glad to see that Virat was able to those issues that he's had, and this is a good sign for him and Bangalore moving forward.
Yeah, and we've already talked about Pradeep Sangwan. Rashid Khan, not exactly a 3-4 wicket kind of day, but again, coming back well after that initial over when Patidar went after him. Unusual match up there. And he came back well to finish off his spell with that customary wicket, right?
Yeah, that's the thing that it really, one of the things that Rashid Khan, if you're going to look at his wicket, it really depends on how much pressure the other bowlers have put. Because he's going to get more wickets if they take chances against him. If they say that we'll play him 4 for 30, they can always get away with him. So what he really needs is some wickets to fall at the other side. And see, this is also one of the things I was just thinking about in this tournament. This was a sort of pitch. I know they're not bowling as much at Rahul Tewatia as much at all. They're not bowling him at all. I thought these were the kind of boundaries and pitches where Tewatia would have been pretty useful. I don't know whether he injured his hand, but the size of the boundaries allows a leggy like him to come into the game, because if you saw this did nothing. Joseph got nothing out of the pitch. Lockie Ferguson got nothing out of the pitch. Shami is just such a fine bowler with a new ball and with his seam movement that he always gives you a little bit. But neither of these two guys, whether Joseph or Ferguson, got very much. And I'm wondering how long are they going to hold him back? And I'm wondering whether it was today was his day or just an injury or just one of those days.
Or maybe his only role is 144 for 5 or 6, 1 over to go. In you go, finish the game. We've got to do it again in the last over of the last ball. But interesting number, Lisa. We were trying to see if we can assess the total before the chasing team have batted. The lowest total defended on this at this venue is 180. So it's kind of below that. So they will have to actually set the bar at a different level.
Yeah, they're going to have to bowl well. And the way that Gujarat bats and how well that they've been going, you better stick around to the last ball, because that's exactly where it's going based on the historical results for Gujarat. But it's going to take a good bowling effort for them. And someone like a Josh Hazlewood needs to kind of really capitalise and take those early wickets, so that we see that middle order a lot earlier, instead of kind of coming in, the 13th, 14th, 15th over and finishing off games.
Yeah, let's have a look at both the lineups in terms of what we have ahead of us. Gujarat batting lineup, they've got some runs from Wriddhiman Saha very recently, so that's going to be a plus for them after the early troubles with Matthew Wade. So with him and Gill, for Gill Joy, it's been about either single digits or a big innings. Today they'll want the latter.
Today they'll want the latter. They'll need more consistency out of him. See, the other problem that they have is that very interesting thing. I think the advantage that they'll get is that Sangwan was spoken to after the match, and he said there was a little bit of turn and grip early, but he said that the wicket actually eased out further, and that perhaps is something. So he was saying that bowling the first 5 or 6 overs, that period was good. Towards the end, it was very, very difficult to sort of control. And I think some of the scoring also gives you an idea of the pattern, because batsmen like Virat struggling early, but towards the middle and end getting some contact, getting some velocity on the ball. So this just might play in their favor as well.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a bit of cat and mouse. Guess who they've thrown the ball to? Faf du Plessis has asked his off spinner, just as Joy said early on, bit of turn, bit of grip. Glenn Maxwell, Lisa.
Yeah, well, this is where Glenn Maxwell bowls. He bowls in the power play, and they try and sneak him out for 1 over, and if he bowls well, he may get a second one. So let's see how he goes. He prefers to come around the wicket and kind of dart it in around that middle to leg stump line.
Well, Wriddhiman Saha has picked up a boundary very first ball, then a single. So it's already Gujarat starting to put runs on the board. What the rest of the bowling makeup will be like, we'll wait and see. But yeah, we just about looked at 170. 171 is what the target is going to be. Quick thought from both of you, Joy, to finish with. Where are you leaning this side? 180, remember, lowest total to be defended here. Can Bangalore defend this?
Look, I think Bangalore has the bowling attack to try and defend it. They have the spinners. They have something which can go in. They have Hazlewood who can take early wickets. And while, my problem with Gujarat is you keep saying their batting is not, they're not the greatest, longest batting order. And they keep pulling off heists like they have. So it's basically, it's common sense and logic saying that Bangalore has quite a decent chance versus just the sheer spirit that Gujarat is playing with right now.
So where is he sitting?
I'm right now. I'm going back to Bangalore. And I'm saying that.
All right, they will defend it. They will defend it. So no heist for Joy. Lisa, do you have the mask on? Heist.
I kind of want Bangalore to win as well. I want them to win because I think it'd be good for the competition. We want them to kind of find their way up the ladder. We want a loggerhead down. So I'm going to go Bangalore, but I don't know. This on the fence. It's very pokey and sore.
All right, then I'm the only one. I'm the only one who's talking about
the heist.
The heist. It's going to be pulled off again. It is going to be a victory for Gujarat, but they're going to again find a way to struggle in the middle and then that last gasp win. Well, whichever happens, we will, of course, talk about it at the end, which will not be the end of the day. It'll only be halfway through. Another match coming up. Rajasthan are taking on Mumbai at the DY Patil. We will talk about that. We'll build up to it. But even before that, Cricbuzz Combox will be back in the 10th over. For now, from Joy, Lisa, and myself, that's all we have on Cricbuzz Live.